So I invite you to scoot a little bit forward on your chair so the spine can be nice and long. And today, we're going to do some full body work. And as always, we begin with our breath. Noticing the breath. As it moves in and out of the body. Gently begin to deepen the breath. Imagining, sensing, feeling our way into a breath that can arrive all the way down below our belly button. So if that's not physically available, just imagine that it's happening and keep the breath moving. And you might notice as we deepen our breath, the exhale can be longer than the inhale. For most of us, that's how our body works. Not everybody, but for most of us. There's always variation. And the exhale, when it's long, slow, deeply felt, helps to reestablish calm in our bodies. And just notice, beginning with your feet, how they feel as they touch the floor. Can you notice the big toe? Can you sense it or feel it or imagine that you know that it's there? And then the second toe on each foot. The third toe. The fourth. And the pinky toes. The sole of the foot. And the top of the foot. We bring our attention to our hands. And we notice the thumb on each hand. Feeling, sensing, or imagining that we can connect with the thumb. The second finger. Middle fingers. The ring fingers. And the pinky fingers. Our attention and our breath comes into the palms of our hands. And we notice the back of our hands, or the top. And then we come back to noticing our breath. And perhaps noticing how the feet feel now, how the hands feel now. that we brought our attention into the specific, those specific parts of our body. Now, even out the breath, breathe in and out, and we're preparing to stand up. So make your way to standing. And we bring our attention to our feet again. And we're going to take our feet a little bit wider than our pelvis, or maybe as wide as the pelvis, but we've got a little wider base today. Now we're going to dig our toes in to our mat like we're digging into sand when we were little kids and we scrunch our toes into the sand. Now breathe in and lift the toes, rocking back onto the ball mounds of the feet. The out breath brings us forward, digging our toes in, and the in breath we expand. So following your rhythm of breath, just going back and forth, and just noticing how your body rocks. And if you're feeling like balance is an issue today, maybe the chair could be nearby for a hand to rest on or be nearby. And then we're going to pause. And we're going to notice the stance of our feet. Bring our attention back into our feet. Shifting the weight to the left, then to the right. Rocking the ankles, just going right and left. So coming onto the inner edge of the foot and the outer edge of the opposite foot. Just rocking right and left. Keep the breath moving. You might notice it, your body's going, oh, there's feet there. Yay. The next time we're in the center, we're going to pause. And we're going to come into releve. So we're coming up onto the ball mounds of the feet. Lift the heels. You might wobble, I know I do. And then lower the heels. So when we lift, we're going to breathe in. And we breathe out to lower. So this becomes a flow. As we breathe in, we're lifting. And out, we're lowering. Again, breathing in. And out. And one more time. And release. So if you found that a little bit challenging and you want to try it later, you could just lift onto one foot, keep the other foot flat. We could do a little bit of that. Let's do that right now. So we're coming up onto the ball mound of, this would be the right foot. Now weights on the left, and we're just going to go back and forth. Ooh, I just had an ankle adjustment there. So now we're getting that action with a little more stability. Notice how the torso moves here. So it's not just moving the feet, noticing what the body naturally wants to do, and let it do that. And then we're going to come back. And now we're going to turn the top of our foot down. So bring it forward a little bit, bend your right knee. So now I'm stretching the front of my ankle. Oh, and it's a little crabby today. And the deeper we bend our knees, the deeper and more intense the stretch is. So you control how deep you're bending to get a stretch into the front of the ankle. Then we're going to come back to neutral. Whew. And we're going to switch legs. So now the weight goes to the left side, and we're going to turn the top of the right foot down. Little bend in the knee. Breathe here. And then we come back. Our feet are going to be wide again, as wide as feels comfortable for you. And we're going to dig our toes in. And then we're going to lift our toes. Breathing out, dig in. And then lift the toes. And you might notice there's a little more grounding and a little more connection in the feet. You might notice that. And then we're going to come to neutral and we're going to shake it out. I'm going to turn sideways for this view. So we're going to take our feet wide again, maybe as wide as the mat. Bring our hands to our back pockets. We'll stretch our psoas. So I'm going to start by pressing that left side of the pelvis forward. There's a little arch in the back, and I'm turning to look over my right shoulder. And there's going to be a deep stretch that goes from right under the rib cage all the way down into the hip joint. And just noticing this with breath. And one more breath. And then we come back to center. And now we're going to press the right side of the pelvis forward. Hands are in the back. We're going to turn and take a look over the left shoulder, feeling that stretch from under the rib cage all the way down into the hip flexor. This is a really good stretch to do every day because this gets really short and tight from sitting or bike riding. We're going to come back to center and we're going to shake it out. And we pause here and let's reconnect with our feet now. Just noticing. Perhaps noticing there might be a little more liveliness in the legs. So when we walk, a lot of us think we're walking just from the hip joint, but the walking action actually begins up here in our psoas. So if you want to take your hand, so there's a central channel in our body, take your hand to either side. So right under the rib cage, maybe press in a little bit if you're fluffy like me, and then take a step forward and see if you can feel muscles engage in your abdomen. This is your psoas. It starts all the way up here and it's responsible. And so maybe if you have balance today, you can pause and lift one leg and notice that muscle moving. So the next time you're out for a walk, just for a few moments in the walk, see if you can sense the psoas engaging as we walk. So this again, this action stretches the psoas all the way up into here and then all the way down into the hip flexor, only it's on the other side that the stretch is happening. And so one more time on the other side. Ooh, so good. And then we come back to neutral and we're going to pause in mountain. Now let's come up to our shoulders. Do a little scapular rotation. So the scapula, we're back here. And so what we're going to do is we're going to draw ourselves together. So we're separating the scapula, the shoulder blades in the back. Now think about this as you're holding this. Would this be the in breath or the out breath? Because we're in a closed posture, cooperating with breath, this would be better with an out breath. So breathe out here. And now we're going to slowly open, and we're going to draw our shoulder blades together in the back. This would be an in breath. Now let's flow with this. Out breath draws in, expand, pull away the shoulder blades from each other. Breathe in, draw the shoulder blades together. And so find your rhythm. Going back and forth, just allowing the body to roll back and draw together, pull away from each other and come forward, just back and forth, warming up, not just the shoulder blades, but the whole rib cage works here. And then we're going to pause. And let's come to our shoulders, the shoulder heads themselves. So we're coming first to the left shoulder, and we're going to rotate that forward and then back. Making a big circle here or a small circle. Maybe taking the feet a little bit wide, because the whole body moves here. It's not just the shoulder. We're going to find our way all the way down the fascia chain into the foot as we do this, and then switch directions. You can keep that breath moving and pause. Switch to the right shoulder, coming forward and back and forward and back and forward and back. And one more time, and then switch direction. And then we pause. We're going to side bend. We're going to take ourselves to the side. We're going to keep the arm down, but feel your way into the rib cage. Maybe touch the rib cage or keep it here. We're reaching this way. Press back with the opposite hand. Rock just a little bit. Seeing if you can feel a whole chain of action down the side body. And then coming back to center, switching sides. Press back with the opposite hand, so the right hand's pressing back as we reach toward the floor with the right hand. Find your inhale and exhale here. Which way is the expansion? Which way is the contraction or the opening and the closing? Coming back to center, reaching up, hands touch, extend to the ceiling, lifting up and out of the pelvis. Keep the breath moving. Feel that nice stretch into the abdominal cavity. And then floating the hands down, we're going to press toward the wall behind. The heart is lifted here. And one more breath. And then we come back to center and we notice our feet. Notice the jaw, maybe the shoulders. We're going to cross our body a little bit with our arm. When we're doing this, we're keeping our pelvis forward, straight. We're not turning in the pelvis. We're going to reach across the body. So we're working to activate the rib cage here. So reaching across the body, the other arm extends behind, and then we open, reach across the body, the other hand extends behind. This would be an in breath. This would be an out breath. This would be the in breath. This would be the out breath. Going back and forth. Maybe noticing the rib cage. And rest in mountain. Shake it out. And notice your feet. Notice your posture. Has anything changed? Now bring the left hand to the left psoas, which is right up here, the top, and then shift the weight to the right foot and swing that left leg. If you need a chair, if that would be helpful, grab a chair. We're seeing if we can bring our attention to the top of the psoas. And we pause. And we're going to shift the weight now to the left leg. The right hand rests right above the, well, for most of us, it's going to be the liver. We're going to reach. You might discover, as I did when I was doing this practice, that one side of my psoas is very clear. I can really feel it moving when I am extending like this. And other times, the other side is not as available. That's just information about how our bodies are working. So for many of us, one side works way harder than the other, or way more consistently than the other. We're going to stretch to the ceiling. We're going to fold just to the knees or the shins. We're going to sweep up again. And we fold on the out breath. When we come to the bottom of the fold now, we're going to pause here. We're going to press the sits bones away from our head and stretch our head away from our sits bones, lighting up the back of the legs. Yeah. Breathe here. And then to release this, bend your knees slightly, let the arms dangle. Sit back like you're sitting toward the chair. Press into the feet to rise up. We're coming up through fierce pose, also known as chair. And we come to standing and we notice our feet again. Notice your posture here. Maybe your heart feels a little bit lifted. Maybe the feet feel a little more stable. That's a simple practice just to warm the body up, to get everything moving so that we can engage our day from a place of ease within our physical body. And you might also notice there may be less chatter in the mind. There may be more awareness of the breath. We're going to find our way to seated now for our Shavasana. I'm going to invite you to scoot a little bit forward on your chair. And we began our practice by noticing our feet. We'll bring our attention back to our feet. And as we sit here, there is an invitation. Today, we are grateful for our feet. For all the places that our feet have taken us. For all the experiences, whether we labeled them good, bad, or neutral, our feet were there with us. Lilias, who is a yoga master, calls the feet the unsung heroes of the body. So as we step forward into our day today, as we step forward into the new year, perhaps we can hold the intention that we will give attention to our feet, to our foundation, to our capacity for stability and balance. So many things are needed for those, but the feet are our primary driver in the capacity to be stable, to be balanced, and to move forward into the world. May we be peaceful. May we be happy. May we be free from suffering. May we be free. May each of us awaken to the light of our true nature. Opening our arms wide, we gather all the blessings that already exist and we draw them in gratitude and appreciation into our hearts. And together we all say, Namaste.